Have you ever reached the end of an exhaustingly busy day, maybe a 12-hour day, collapsed on the couch, and just realized you didn't actually accomplish a single thing that mattered to you?
Oh, absolutely. Like you spent the entire day sprinting.
Right. You answered 100 emails, you went to 6 meetings, put out a dozen tiny fires, but then you look back and the projects you genuinely care about haven't moved forward an inch.
Yeah, it's that feeling where your brain is buzzing with this strange, like, phantom exhaustion. You're completely drained, but entirely unfulfilled.
Exactly. And today, we're doing a deep dive into a stack of really fascinating sources. Book reviews, behavioral design analyses, summaries, all breaking down the book Make Time, How to Focus on What Matters Every Day.
By Jick Knapp and John Zeratsky, right?
Yeah, those guys. And our mission today is to figure out how we can hack our defaults, reclaim our attention, and basically stop living reactively in an attention economy.
Which is so needed right now.
It really is.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to actually fix our time, we first have to understand exactly what is stealing it. We tend to blame ourselves for this exhaustion, but the sources point to something much more systemic.
Yeah, they do. We are basically fighting a war on two fronts here against forces engineered to hijack human attention. The authors identified the first force as the busy bandwagon.
The busy bandwagon. I love that term.
Right. It's the cultural default of the modern workplace. I mean, it's the overflowing inbox, the back-to-back calendar congestion, the endless Slack notifications.
It's just relentless.
It is. And the busy bandwagon operates on this pervasive illusion that rapid response equals high-value productivity. It basically creates an environment where you're expected to fill every single minute with activity just to prove you're working.
It's like a giant hamster wheel where busyness is worn as a badge of honor, but then you finish the workday and the second force takes over.
Ah, yes, the infinity pools.
Which sounds relaxing, but it's really not.
No, not at all. These are the technological defaults that are literally engineered to monetize your cognitive presence. Think of any app with endlessly replenishing content.
Like social media, news feeds, streaming algorithms.
Exactly. You pull to refresh, and there is always something new. They are called infinity pools because, well, you can never reach the bottom.
And I was reading through the background of the authors, Knapp and Zeratsky, and something jumped out at me that completely changes how we should view this.
Oh, you mean their past jobs?
Yeah. These guys aren't just observant philosophers critiquing society from the outside. They literally helped build these platforms.
Right. They worked on the designs for Gmail, YouTube, Google Hangouts.
Wait, so the guys writing the book on how to avoid distraction are the ones who designed the distractions?
Basically, yeah. I mean, they were in the room when the neural pathways of modern tech addiction were being mapped out. They understand better than anyone how these products exploit behavioral psychology.
That is wild.
It is. They leverage a concept Plato called acrasia, which is the human tendency to act against our own better interests.
Like knowing you should go to sleep, but scrolling for another hour anyway.
Precisely that. In modern behavioral science, we call this present bias or hyperbolic discounting.
Right.
Evolution wired our brains to value a small, instant dopamine hit, like, seeing a new notification or a like on a photo, far more than a delayed, meaningful reward.
Like finishing a novel or spending quality time with family.
Exactly. Our hunter-gatherer brains are simply outmatched by variable ratio reward schedules built into our phones. Infinity pools exploit this present bias brilliantly by offering instant, effortless gratification.
Which, it makes the classic productivity advice of just use more willpower feel incredibly insulting.
Oh, completely.
Relying on willpower to ignore your phone is like sitting in a swimming pool and trying to will yourself dry.
Wow.
The environment is designed to get you wet.
That is a perfect analogy.
You cannot just clench your jaw and ignore a device mathematically optimized by thousands of engineers to hijack your brain's reward center.
You really can. And what's fascinating here is that because willpower is a finite cognitive resource, it will always eventually fail against engineered defaults.
Yeah, by like 4.0 p.m., your willpower is totally depleted.
And the infinity pool wins. So the core philosophy of these sources is that we must shift from default behavior to conscious behavior. We have to structurally change our environment.
But before we start changing the environment, we need an anchor, right? Like we need a reason to fight back against the bandwagon and the pools.
Yes, exactly.
If living out of a massive demoralizing to-do list is reactive living, just swatting away other people's priorities, we need a proactive target. The sources call this first step the highlight.
The highlight. It's basically a singular focal point for your day. Instead of trying to do 50 things poorly, you consciously choose one task that deserves your absolute best cognitive energy.
And the parameters around choosing this highlight are really specific. The sources suggest it should take between 60 to 90 minutes.
Right, which is highly intentional.
Yeah, I was looking into the neuroscience behind that timing. If you allocate under 60 minutes, your brain rarely has enough runway to bypass surface-level distraction and enter a state of deep cognitive flow.
Yep, it takes time to get into it.
But then, if you push it past 90 minutes, your executive function starts to degrade. You hit cognitive fatigue, and the quality of your work just plummets.
It is the neurobiological sweet spot for deep work. But the challenge most people face is selection. I mean, how do you choose just one highlight when your inbox is screaming at you?
Right, how do you decide?
The authors offer 3 criteria: urgency, satisfaction, and joy. Urgency is straightforward, like what absolutely must get done today.
A looming deadline or a critical presentation, something like that.
Exactly. Then there's satisfaction, which focuses on those high-value projects that aren't necessarily on fire, but will give you a profound sense of accomplishment.
So choosing a satisfaction highlight is how you break the cycle of chronic procrastination. Like finally mapping out that budget or drafting a difficult proposal.
Yes. But the third metric, joy, is the one that really challenges the modern productivity narrative.
Oh, I love this one. The idea that your highlight could be playing a board game with your kids, reading a fiction book, or just taking a long walk with no destination.
Joy is such a crucial metric because it validates the psychological necessity of non-productive time.
Totally.
Modern productivity culture makes us feel so guilty whenever we aren't producing capital or ticking a box. But prioritizing joy forces us to recognize that time is only wasted if you aren't intentional about how you spend it.
Resting intentionally actually replenishes the cognitive fatigue caused by the busy bandwagon.
Exactly.
And to actually clear the space for this 90-minute highlight, the sources offer some really practical systems. Cal Newport talks about this in Deep Work as well, calendar blocking.
Though calendar blocking is essential.
You don't just put the highlight on a to-do list. You schedule an appointment with yourself on your calendar, and you defend that time as if it were a meeting with your CEO.
Another fantastic tactic they suggest is the burner list. You visualize a stove, you place your top priority project on the front burner, your secondary project goes on the back burner,
And everything else.
everything else goes into a kitchen sink space. It is a visual exercise in limiting decision fatigue. You also batch the little stuff.
Meaning you group all those minor chores like answering routine emails, paying a bill into one concentrated block.
Right. Instead of letting them fragment your attention across the entire day, it really comes down to asking yourself a reflective question every single morning.
Which is?
When I look back on today tonight, what single accomplishment or moment will bring me the most joy or satisfaction?
So what does this all mean? It means busyness creates an illusion of importance, but the highlight creates actual meaning. You are trading the phantom exhaustion of 100 tiny reactive tasks for the deep fulfillment of one intentional act.
But, having a target isn't enough when your environment is working against you.
Oh, right. The moment you sit down to focus on that highlight, an uncomfortable feeling creeps in.
The task is hard. Your brain panics and craves an easy dopamine hit. And the infinity pools will immediately try to drag you back in.
Which requires us to build a defense mechanism. The sources refer to this as entering laser focus. And this isn't about white-knuckling your way through distraction.
Yeah, not at all.
It is an exercise in behavioral friction design.
The behavioral science here is driven by a really simple mathematical concept. The probability of distraction is inversely proportional to the friction required to access it.
Okay, break that down for me.
Sure, if an app is one tap away, you will open it automatically before your conscious brain can even intervene. You have to deliberately increase the effort needed to access distracting stimuli.
I see. So if it takes 3 seconds to open a social feed, I'm going to do it 100 times a day. But if it takes 3 minutes, say, I have to walk to another room, open a laptop, type in a long password, and navigate to a website, my conscious brain actually has time to step in and say, wait, what are we doing?
Right. The friction breaks the autopilot loop. The sources talk heavily about removing limiting behaviors, and the biggest culprit is the morning check-in.
Reaching for the phone to check email and news before your feet even hit the floor.
Yes. From a psychological standpoint, this is disastrous. You are immediately fragmenting your cognition. You're inviting the chaos, stress, and demands of the entire world into your brain before you've even processed your own waking thoughts.
It sets a reactive tone for the entire day.
It does. And it leads directly into what the authors call time craters.
I love this concept.
It's so real. You hit a tough spot in your highlight, so you decide to take a 90-second break to check Twitter or read a news headline. But that 90-second diversion creates a 45-minute crater of context switching.
Because your brain is not a computer that can cleanly switch tabs.
Exactly. To process that 90-second news feed, your brain has to boot down the complex rules of your highlight, load up the emotional baggage and dopamine triggers of the social media content, and then, reverse the entire process to get back into flow.
The cognitive fatigue of context switching is just immense.
To combat those craters, the sources advocate for the distraction-free phone. Deleting all social media, news apps, games, and streaming services from your mobile device.
They even suggest disabling the web browser entirely.
Which is intense. For many people, the thought of stripping their phone down to just calls, texts, and maps induces actual anxiety.
Oh, it'd be sweating.
But those who push through that initial withdrawal report a massive sense of relief. You reclaim hours of lost time simply by removing the infinity pools from your pocket.
There's an incredible anecdote in the sources about Jake Knapp trying to write a novel. He found he couldn't stop himself from mindlessly browsing the internet late at night. His willpower was totally shot by 900p.
And what did he do?
He didn't try to summon more discipline. He bought a $10 light timer, the cheap plastic kind you use to turn your living room lamps on and off when you go on vacation.
Oh, I know those.
And he plugged his internet router into it. He set it to forcefully kill the Wi-Fi at 9:30 p.m. every night. He literally created a desert island for deep work by engineering an environment where distraction was physically impossible.
Wow. It is the ultimate example of choosing real wins over fake wins.
Fake wins?
Yeah, a fake win is reaching inbox 0 at 10:00 p.m. It feels productive, your brain receives a little hit of dopamine, but you haven't actually moved anything deeply important forward.
Let me push back on this, though. Turning off the internet, ignoring emails, stripping your phone. Isn't that going to get people fired in the real world?
It's a very common fear.
Right. Like if you're an account manager or part of a collaborative team, you can't just vanish into the woods.
It is a valid concern, but the strategy is not about vanishing. It is about resetting expectations and being deliberately slow. We treat modern communication like a synchronous conversation, but we need to treat it like snail mail.
Snail mail.
Yeah. When you send a physical letter, you don't stand at your mailbox waiting for the postman to instantly deliver a reply. You should batch process your digital communication in the same way.
So you send an away message stating you are in a block of deep work, and you tell people to call or text if there is a true, literal emergency.
Exactly. And the reality is 99% of emails are not emergencies. They just feel like it because of the bandwagon culture.
By being deliberately slow to respond to non-urgent items, you systematically train your colleagues to respect your time.
This raises an important question regarding our underlying relationship with technology. Are we using these applications as tools to enhance our lives, or are they using our attention as a raw commodity to be mined and sold?
Wow.
If you are constantly available and constantly checking, you have ceased to be the user. You are the product.
So we pick our highlight to give the day meaning, and we build a fortress of behavioral friction to protect it. But staying in that state of laser focus burns an unbelievable amount of biological energy.
It takes a toll, yeah.
You can't just mandate focus if your physical engine is sputtering.
Which brings us to the physical foundation of the brain and the phase the sources call energize. The central psychological insight here is that modern humans are experiencing a massive evolutionary mismatch.
How so?
Well, we evolved over hundreds of thousands of years as active hunter-gatherers. We moved constantly, rested deeply, ate whole foods, and synced our sleep to the sun. Yet today, we live sedentary, screen-lit lives in climate-controlled boxes.
Staring at glowing rectangles while eating processed foods.
Exactly. This modern lifestyle puts the nervous system in a persistent state of low-level stress, resulting in chronic brain fog.
We're basically physically deteriorating while simultaneously demanding peak cognitive performance from our brains.
Exactly. To sustain deep focus, we have to retrofit our daily habits to match our evolutionary biology.
The sources outline some incredibly practical ways to do this, particularly regarding how we consume caffeine. I was blown away by the neuroscience here.
It's really eye-opening.
Right. The standard default, for most of us, is to wake up, stumble to the kitchen, and pour a cup of coffee immediately. The sources argue that is biologically counterproductive.
Yeah, because when you wake up, your endocrine system is naturally producing a spike of cortisol, a hormone designed to wake you up and make you alert.
So if you drink coffee during that natural cortisol spike, you are essentially wasting the caffeine and building a long-term tolerance.
Exactly. The science suggests waiting until 9:30 or 10:30 a.m. You let your natural cortisol do its job, and then you deploy caffeine strategically to block adenosine.
And adenosine is the chemical that continuously builds up in our brain throughout the waking day, eventually making us feel sleepy, right?
Correct. Caffeine doesn't magically create energy out of nothing. Its molecular structure perfectly fits into your brain's adenosine receptors, blocking the chemical.
So your brain simply can't feel how tired it is.
Right, so the optimal tactic is to drink coffee about 30 minutes before you anticipate your daily energy crash, blocking those receptors before the fatigue takes hold.
They even suggest a biological hack called the caffeine nap.
Oh, those are amazing.
You drink a cup of coffee quickly, immediately lie down for a 20-minute nap, and by the time you wake up, the sleep has naturally cleared out the adenosine just as the caffeine is hitting your bloodstream.
It's like a system reboot. And beyond caffeine, they use a great visual trick for food called Central Park Your Plate.
I really like this one.
When managing energy through nutrition, you put your leafy greens in the very center of your plate, like Central Park in the middle of Manhattan, and build the rest of your meal around the edges.
It is a behavioral nudge to limit heavy processed carbohydrates because massive carb loads cause massive insulin spikes, which inevitably lead to those terrible mid-afternoon energy crashes where focus becomes biologically impossible. When you look at these tactics, optimizing caffeine, walking daily, keeping the phone out of the bedroom for better sleep, it completely aligns with James Clear's philosophy in Atomic Habits.
Oh, for sure.
You are stacking small, manageable biological wins that generate massive long-term cognitive dividends. But there was one psychological insight in this Energize section that really caught me off guard: the concept of wholeheartedness.
Yes. The authors argue that the antidote to exhaustion is not always rest. Sometimes the antidote is wholehearted, enthusiastic commitment to a task.
It sounds so counterintuitive, like if I'm tired, I should sleep, right?
You'd think so.
But think about at times you were dead tired, just completely dragging, and then someone invited you to do something you genuinely love. Suddenly you have boundless energy.
It's true. Half focusing on a boring reactive task drains your life force. But giving yourself over completely to a highlight you care about actually generates its own internal energy.
Total immersion is energizing. Partial attention is exhausting. But, you can have the perfect highlight, a distraction-free phone and an optimized caffeine schedule, and still fall off the wagon.
Oh, easily.
How do we ensure these changes actually stick and don't just become another failed productivity diet we abandon after 2 weeks?
This requires a mechanism for systematic iteration, which the sources call the reflect phase.
This is where we move away from treating productivity as a rigid, militaristic dogma.
Right. The mindset shift here is viewing your daily routine as an ongoing personal experiment based on the Japanese business philosophy of Kaizen.
Kaizen translates roughly to continuous small improvements.
Exactly. The goal is not to execute the perfect day from day one. The goal is to collect objective data on your own behavior.
So the framework suggests a very simple nightly diagnostic. You take 2 minutes to ask yourself, did I make time for my highlight today? What were my energy levels on a scale of 1 to 10? Which specific friction or energy tactic did I try, and did it actually work?
And the crucial limiting behavior we have to remove in this phase is the tendency to beat ourselves up.
Right. Like, if you intended to work on a proposal, but ended up getting sucked into TikTok for an hour, the old default is to declare the system a failure and shame yourself.
But in the Kaizen mindset, you aren't a judge handing down a sentence. You are a scientist observing an experiment. You just note it as data.
Okay, relying on willpower with my phone on my desk didn't work today. The data shows I failed. Tomorrow, I will adjust the variables and put the phone in another room.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the reflect phase is what rewires your brain's relationship with productivity.
How so?
By acknowledging small adjustments rather than punishing failures, you tap into a healthier dopamine loop. Small daily systems, constantly tweaked and refined through objective observation, will shape the long-term quality of your life far more than sporadic bursts of intense, unsustainable effort.
You are essentially building a customized personal operating system for your attention.
You're shifting from being a victim of your defaults to being the architect of them.
So, pulling all of this together from the sources, we have a complete framework for focus and attention. We start by choosing a highlight to give our day intentional meaning.
We use laser tactics to build a fortress of friction around that focus.
We energize our physical bodies to sustain the massive cognitive load.
And we reflect nightly to continually adjust the system without judgment.
True time management isn't about cramming more tasks into a 24-hour period. It is about systematically removing the defaults of busyness and distraction to make space for what actually matters.
It is a profound paradigm shift away from traditional industrial-era productivity metrics.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The ultimate paradox of this entire philosophy is that by slowing down your response time, by purposefully doing less, by actively ignoring the cultural demand to be constantly busy, you actually become a more valuable, effective person.
Which is counter to everything we're taught.
Right. Doing less of the reactive stuff allows you to produce infinitely higher quality work, be far more present with your family, and reclaim your peace of mind.
We live in an era where some of the wealthiest, most powerful corporations in human history are employing the smartest engineers and neuroscientists on Earth to build platforms designed specifically to harvest our attention.
It's terrifying when you put it like that.
It is. In that kind of predatory landscape, perhaps the most radical act of modern rebellion is simply choosing for yourself where to place your focus.
Reclaiming the territory of your own mind.
Exactly.
We don't need to be paralyzed by the phantom exhaustion of the modern world. The treatment just requires drawing a line in the sand with our own daily choices.
Duh.
We want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Don't wait for the perfect Monday to begin. Start your first experiment today. Pick just one meaningful highlight, put your phone in another room, and see what happens when you finally step off the bandwagon.